Ghost of Tsushima, a game recently released by Sucker Punch, a game praised for its breathtaking landscapes, cinematic and soul-stimulating soundtrack, Mongol massacring, and brain cell incinerating difficulty. Sucker Punch has truly delivered something special with this game. A game that someone as afraid of commitment as I could 100% because I loved it that much. Today, I will be taking that love, holding it tight, and dumping it in a vat of sulfuric acid. From there, taking its corroded and deformed corpse and banishing it to hell. Today, ladies and gentlemen, all 8 of you will figure out with me if you can beat Ghost of Tsushima without taking damage. In case it has not yet become clear based on the title, major spoiler warning, so if you care about that, well, I suggest you pack your bags and get out of here, Stinky. To the rest of you Chads, let's begin. In order to hold myself accountable for the first time in my life, I will be equipping the Curse of Frailty charm. This charm will make it so that the slightest mistake will spell my deliving, whether it be even something as mundane as a splash of water will lead to crippling injury. Though it will not just be a challenge of avoiding damage, no. In order to make this challenge at least somewhat difficult, I have decided to add my patented masochism modifiers to this challenge. Not only will I have to move and groove my way through sword slashes, shield smashes, and spear stabs, I will not allow myself to conduct testosterone-draining assassinations, purposefully. More on that later. Projectiles other than the bow and arrow are prohibited, and in the case of the bows, their use is limited to defeating the Hellspawn incarnate known as archers. Seriously, fuck these guys. These little Robin Hood cosplayers will prove soon to be the bane of my rectum, with their inconsistent shot telegraphing, 360 no-scopes, and general fuckery. Oh my god, what the fuck? The challenge will be done on New Game Plus on the highest difficulty setting, Lethal Plus, which sounds like a mid-2000s workout at home DVD program. This means that Mongols will be beating me down with their big meaty claws as I retaliate in turn with all the ferocity of a pool noodle. The final burden I will be placing on myself is that if I am ever unfortunate enough to spot a Mongol camp, or if by inexplicable means a camp ends up marked on the map, then it must be purged of all life. With these rules in place, a thirst for Mongolian suffering, and the power of God and anime on my side, we begin. We begin Act 1 with a simple enough objective, rescue Unki Shimura. But before we can do that, we must don an armor that can help us through this perilous journey. With our potential unleashed, we're off to meet Best Girl Yuna in a quest to save her brother. Together we stake out a nearby prison camp with our binocular eyes. I feel my bloodlust and testosterone rising as I ready myself to flawlessly execute the mission. But baby girl stops me as the barbarians will slaughter the captives if I'm spotted. This would be the first of many times I'd be bitch-slapped by forced stealth sections. Like a whisper in the night, I masterfully take down my first Mongol. A minor bout of PTSD later, and I move into action. Here, you'll see my ingenious technique of getting the attention of these unsuspecting simpletons. This is a common theme going forward, me flailing like an idiot in front of their eyeballs so that I don't accidentally assassinate them. Finally, we get to some hormone-pumping combat. The thrill of battle, where only the most skilled... And we successfully find our guy. Only it isn't. Mission done. Although I am an unstoppable killing machine, the arbiter of death to these mere mortals that defy me, I feel as though something is missing. While our current getup isn't bad, I feel as though I can find something that strikes fear into the heart. It's then that I see it.
Dang, that looked good!
Sensing the raw energy emanating from this literal bucket hat, I invoke its power in the name of the Shogun. Next, it's time to give old Hawkeye a visit, but not before annihilating everyone inside this Mongol hideout. My first act, of course, is to immediately anger PETA, and after styling on some scrubs, I decide to blow some shit up. Not realizing that by blowing shit up, I had accidentally skipped killing literally any other Mongols and skipped directly to the duel. My bad. With no other options, I size up my opponent, looking for an orifice my katana could enter. But this man was a walking chastity belt. It would not be easy. 4 alternate timeline splits later, and he was dead. The people of the now liberated dojo of course showered me with their praise and affection. All of it very much deserved. En route to Hawkeye, I decide to cleanse myself of my sins with a quick splishy splash, only to immediately roll around in the mud like the infantile-minded man I am. Channeling my inner chimpanzee a la Joe Rogan, I make my way to Sensei's dojo. I arrive, but something is afoot. Although I can't place my finger on it. I enter his abode in all my drip, and watch him look on in envy. This old gas bag has taken on a new student, after having rejected me. In an effort to show him his grave mistake, I begin my dance of death with a nearby gaggle of mongoose. It goes about as well as you'd expect. 5 tries at what should have been a free fight to win, and we're off. We track his false daughter to a nearby Mongol camp, but not before Sensei blesses me by gifting me a bow I already own. Ignoring the paradoxical timeline split we have now created, we tag team the unsuspecting mass of meat creatures with righteous fury. As it turns out, Sensei here picked out a psychopathic serial killer to be the heiress to his legacy, and she had been teaching the Mongols how to quickscope our people with the power of G Fuel. Be sure to keep that plot point thoroughly in mind, as it will never come up in this run again. Posing up with the squad, and off to Granny's I went for tea and cookies. Little did I know that a group of rambunctious rascals were planning a wacky prank for her. After dispatching the pranksters, I went to check for Granny, but all I could find was blood and viscera. Another wacky Wednesday indeed. Mistaking me for one of the goofball pranksters, Granny pulls up with that motherfucking thing on her. Turns out the pranksters weren't pranksters at all, but filthy bandit boys in need of a good spanking. We gang up on a monk to discern his involvement by looking for subtle facial cues. Immediately, the goober self-snitches, and it's tushy tapping time. We go to explain to the monk that ordering the death of an entire clan of women and children wasn't the best idea, but Granny gets a bit heated before we can finish. That's that done. I equip the charm of exhaustion. I equip the charm of exhaustion, which pretty much sums up my existence at this point, in that every action requires twice the resolve to even start. And of course, the Tarantino charm. And let me tell you, this thing is glorious. Not bad. Not bad at all. Because progress never comes without pain, I find myself at yet another mongoloid outpost. Knowing that archers will be what causes my anus to prolapse, I make my way, snipe the bastards from a safe distance, and proceed to clap buns with precision. With the last troglodyte archer dealt with, I'm off. Upon my travels, I find what appears to be some unliving Mongols encrusted in a layer of dung. As I investigate further, my nostrils are assaulted with a familiar stench of diarrhea. But of course, if it isn't Ryuzo, from here on out, lovingly referred to as Shitstain. The walking chocolate mud baby unfortunately is still alive, but before I can rub Vicks VapoRub in my nose to block the smell, we are ambushed. Being the useless waste of flesh that he is, Shitstain watches as I am mercilessly disemboweled 7 times. Eventually, I baby rage hard enough to secure victory. We're going to go through this section at sonic speed, for I fear if I edit with this turd on my screen for too long, my CPU will be clogged with the dingleberries of his existence. Basically, Straw Hats are hungry, we devise a plan to steal Lunchables from the Mongols. Shitstain puts me in negative drip, and we launch our raid of the camp. By raid, of course, I mean me breaking my back carrying these scrubs, going in solo. Being forced to clear the place silently means I must sap myself of my manly essence. With some well-deserved trauma out of the way, I finito the rest of the boys, and light the tower. No Lunchables in sight, however, as they've been taken offshore. Some more beta talk from Shitstain and a couple stealth maneuvers later, and we board the ships. Making sure to spook the troglodytes, we finally find the food. After dying 3 times, but like my father did me, let's just ignore that. Shitstain gets smeared on the floor by a level 1 goon because he forgot to pump points into usefulness. Further embarrassing him by easily dispatching the scrub, the Mongeese are none too pleased that we have the food, and rage quit. After begging me to grace him with some sword fighting training, I laugh heartily and send him on his way. Mission done. Meeting with Yuna and the town drunk, we devise a plan to save Yuna's brother Taki's. Outsmarting the low IQ monster men with the classic, hide in the only thing remotely big enough to house people that you should probably check if you're worried about anyone sneaking in, maneuver. You'll have to forgive me for fast forwarding through this as it's just another stealth section and I'd never put you guys through something like that. We find baby boy Taka and proceed to dip something fierce. Although at this section you are meant to hide, a button prompt came up on the screen, so of course my monkey brain had to press it. Taka gets clapped up, but it's otherwise fine. After rescuing Taka, yet another mandatory posing with the squad, and I make my way to the next mission at Komatsu Forge. See, we need Taka to build us the ultimate Mouska-tool for our adventure. We go around and liberate the local populace from their receding hairline tormentors, and light the forge. The Mongols make a truly pathetic attempt at a raid, and promptly get smacked by my superior gamer movement. Meanwhile, the Khans out here straight up spreading propaganda, as I've been specifically avoiding killing Mongols from behind this entire time. Taka finishes what might possibly be the greatest innovation that mankind had seen to this point. Suddenly, a familiar stench invades my sense, and immediately I know that Shitstain is within a 10-mile radius. Yet again, homeboy can't hold his weight, and came to daddy for help. Putting the Mouska-tool to the test, I Georgia the jungle my way to rescue his men. Holy fuck, was I spread by this mission. After a total of 47 deaths, one time even by fucking bugs, and an hour and a half of my life wasted, I finally prevail. Having had enough of getting my shit pushed in, I resorted to unsavory tactics. But, feeling shame, totally 100% killed myself, on purpose. Clearing it the old-fashioned way, and then completing the mission. I assemble the Avengers so that Unky can be saved, but as expected, Shitstain is ruining everything by showing up late. I prepare myself for a tough fight, and make my way to the castle. I begin to dispatch the nearby enemies, at one point disappointing my ancestors with an accidental assassination. Together, Masako and I charge onward as the others twiddle their thumbs in the background. It takes a couple tries, but we succeed. The door ahead blocks our progress, but is not enough to stop a sly sleuth such as myself. After allowing my katana to penetrate 12 to 13 inches deep into each body before me, it hits me. The smell.
A kind of smelly smell. A smelly smell that smells smelly.
Bitch. After all the motherfucking things I did for you, you got me fucked up. I sunned this man instantly. Just kidding, I lost about 23 times in a row, but it sounds cooler the other way. I give the living fecal matter one last shot at redemption, but it's clear he's a simp for the con and has been subscribed to his OnlyFans for years. Finishing up the mission after this point is a cakewalk, culminating in a climactic battle for my uncle's freedom. The castle is now ours. My uncle's first act of freedom is immediately to send us on a suicide mission. Turns out Khan Sufanusumphone is none too pleased about Shimura's escape. Let the clapping of cheeks begin. My cheeks, that is. Again, I must stress, fuck these guys. 30 minutes and 2 controllers later, victory is achieved. I stumble across a camp, and thank God there's only 3 people there. The next mission yet again has our uncle sending us to our almost certain demise. Gotta say, old man, I'm getting tired of this. As if to punish me for my ineptitude against the bowmen, they bust out the big guns. Fighting with this thing constantly firing is a real pain in my keister. Another 12 sodomizations later, I hatch my master plan of running the fuck away and seeing what happens. To my surprise it works, and with a near cucking, I man the booty blaster for myself. I'm not even on a boat, and this is better naval combat than Assassin's Creed Black Flag. A quick hit to the fields and mission's donezo. Moving to the next quest, I started, and oh no.
Well, don't you just love
You're gonna be just like a little ninja.
Trust me, you're gonna love it. It's
boy.
amazing.
You're gonna be a little
sneak master.
Finally, we make our way to the objective, some dude. We need some dude's people to help us fight because if I'm being honest, we're the only thing stopping them from certain mutilation. He declines. Mission over. Considering that we need the people in that village to not be dead when we storm the second castle, we find his most trusted archers and sneak up on them. After we epically prank the Mongols, they seem to trust us enough and promise to put in a good word to some dude. The defenses are going well as we prepare for the upcoming siege. Of course, this is the perfect time to get wasted. Awakened from my drunken stupor, the battle begins. I actually don't have much to say on this, I didn't die once. Sensing my awesome power, the savages resorted to attacking my frame rate to nerf me, but even then, they were no match. After dispatching the last of these fools, I challenge copy and pasted armored Mongol number 87 and proceed to play a drum solo on his cheeks. I make an example of him and proceed to slaughter my way to the gates. With the invaders overran, the citizens rejoice. After declaring myself their god and demanding their undying loyalty, a brief moment of respite. Meanwhile, the 2 cum lords themselves discuss how goddamn awesome I am, and proceed to install hacks to defeat me. The next mission has me returning home to confront my past. I won't cover it too much as there's only one fight, and it's pretty damn easy. I later find waifu and brother, and ask for their help defeating Shitlord, when waifu decides to take my heart and tear it into bite-sized pieces. I make my way to his hideout and ready myself for yet another solo speedrun. As it turns out, Taka is truly a Chad, and helps immensely by distracting the Mongols, calling them angry incels and threatening to fuck them and their bitches. They are not fans of this. Only a few stay behind, having no bitches to worry about. I quickly remind them that it is they who are the bitches, and pimp slap my way to the talking porta potty. I tell him to be a man and face his death with honor, but he has no such plans. I wake up in a daze, realizing that Taka's gigantic balls slowed him down enough to be caught. This guy shows up and it is immediately apparent that we are in a bit of a pickle. He tries to convince Chad Almighty to turn on me, but of course I know he's too much of a real one for that fuck shit. What I did not understand is that he was actually fully down for the fuck shit and takes a swing. Unfortunately, the Khan had an extra bowl of Frosted Flakes this morning and was much too powerful.
No.
The pain is immense. I break free from what must have been the worst rope job I've seen since my time at that one BDSM club. I armor up and take my revenge. 15 deaths later and oh no. I think there was supposed to be audio there, but yeah. Her grieving is cut short by an encroaching flock of Mongmen. After a non-zero number of attempts and Yuna's help, we fend them off. After burying Taka, we pay our respects. I later check on her to see how she's doing, and off we are to storm the second castle. The fight of my life awaits, and we charge forward valiantly. Boy, was this fight, as the true gamers call, a doozy. Sensing that my companions may not be quite up to snuff for the challenge, I take matters into my own hands. Unky isn't too happy, but who cares? I've been saving the whole island while he was having tea and crumpets with the Khan. I once again rain hellfire on those unfortunate enough to oppose me, and we press the advantage. Everything looks to be going well, but the Mongoloids are giving up too easy. I sense something's off. They clap up our forces like they were nothing, and this dude wants to repeat the process tomorrow. I politely tell him that this is possibly the worst fucking plan I've ever heard in my life. This does not go well. Knowing that my uncle plans to send the rest of our army to catch arrows and explosions with their faces, I once again take matters into my own hands. I sneak in the base and slip some good old-fashioned Clorox into their drinks as they celebrated. The results are glorious. I march up the steps to confront the Khan, but smell that something is off. Turns out that the Khan ran like a little biatch and left his lapdog for me to kill. This ugly mofo has the audacity to claim that he's really on my side, but I recognize it for what it is. One final pathetic attempt to avoid the inevitable clapping of his cheeks. I tell him to ready his sphincter. Over the course of 25 grueling minutes spent fighting the camera more than actually fighting, and 36 deaths later, the deed is done.
Do me a favor and hold this for me, bitch.
Having single-handedly murdered the treacherous Ryuzo and offing every Mongol that stood in our way, I expected to be treated with love and respect. Instead, my efforts are rewarded by my salty bitch of an uncle in imprisonment.
They put clothes on me? You monsters, you monsters.
I do not know how long I was there for. The days and nights began to blend together like Go-Gurt mixed berry. I soon wonder if Yuna's anime titties will ever be mine. Thankfully, I am saved by the sake man by the simplest of means, telling my sole guard to go get drunk. I proceed to stealth my way out and make my way to find my waifu. It is soon discovered that I'm out, and the pursuit begins. My noble steed takes a couple shots, but he eats those like they're nothing. Well, that's not good. Thus begins the final act. After honoring my fallen comrade, I once again must sneak past a heaping helping of Mongols to make it to my beloved. I look around, but she's nowhere to be seen. I start to assume the worst. The bastards have used my own Clorox against me. Little did they know I had claimed a patent on it, and would be back to sue the shit out of them. That is, if I survived, which did not look too likely. Thankfully, baby girl comes to my rescue again, and gives me a little Tums for my upset stomach. Alright, the video's getting pretty lengthy by now, and the next missions are of minimal challenge where we blow some goons up, slap the rest of them up, and secure ourselves a base near the Khan's final resting place. Yuna has me find a simp of hers and recruit him to the cause, and together along with my friends, we cut down the rest of a nearby fort. I confront Yuna about this simp and she eases my concerns, telling me that those anime titties are mine. Our penultimate task is to scout the Khan's whereabouts from a nearby vantage point, of course guarded by Mongols. I proceed to silently make my way through. As it turns out, the Khan has no respect for patent law and is making my Clorox in large quantities to be used against the mainland. This will not stand. We scout his base and devise a plan. A storm is coming, and when it hits we shall launch an all-out war for my intellectual property. But first, I must recruit my uncle, for we would surely have our asses left gaping if we go alone. One last sneak mission later, and the message is delivered. This is it. The final mission. The culmination of all my hours fighting to liberate the island and reclaim my trademark. All my friends are here to support me in this cause. My heart is full. Until I remember how useless they are in combat. With the first group of Mongol boys dealt with, we reconvene with Shaolin Showdown and push the final offensive. At least they do. I say fuck that and find a quieter, less lethal entrance. I climb up a nearby tower where I see him, the bastard himself. But I can hardly believe my eyeballs and ear holes when my unkie shows up to help. From here, the samurai make a necessary distraction as my frame rate decides to take a fat shit. I mean, throughout this whole section I'm getting at max 5 frames per minute, and my console sounds about ready to detonate. After half an hour and 14 deaths, I decide fuck it, this is impossible to try to fight with this slideshow presentation of frames I'm getting, and bomb the shit out of everything and everyone. Not sorry. With that out of the way, I make my way to the final encounter. After all this pain, all this suffering, it was finally time. Finally time to put an end to this. One climactic battle that would decide the fate of not only Tsushima, but all of Japan. Coming into this fight, I wondered why I forgot almost everything about it. I would soon come to find out it was because my mind repressed how goddamn repugnant this fight is. In my entire run, I had never run into so many buggy animations, hitches, and glitches that left my sanity in stitches. there was literally a point where the parry animation just stopped working, and it happened inconsistently enough that when it showed up, I was never ready for it and would eat steel. Not gonna lie, this was a bit of a stinker. Over the next hour, I would torture myself until finally, I was victorious. But even that wasn't enough suffering for the game. You see, this is only the first phase of the fight, and the Khan graciously leaves you poisoned as your reward. The problem with this being that you need to heal to cure yourself of poison or wait long enough for it to pass. The problem with this being that it takes resolve, and I had confined myself to doubling the amount of resolve to heal. And the problem with waiting is that you're immediately fighting two Mongols. So what that meant is that upon my first attempt and subsequent failure, I had locked myself in a loop of not being able to heal myself from the poison that you start with from the checkpoint. This tilted me hard. Tilted me enough to tilt the Earth's axis even. Tilted me enough that I resorted to simply spamming sticky bombs to kill the first two Mongols and simply waiting until the poison wore off. Eventually, after 10 minutes of attempts, I finally made it to the Khan's ship, ready for our final bout. What I was absolutely not ready for was to fight him and his army of goons. Again, repressed this from before, and additional 30 minutes and 46 deaths later, I had snapped. I started chucking as much shit at these fuckers as I could, kunais, explosive arrows, whatever was available. Truly a low point. The Khan stood there defeated, and I let him feel my wrath. Not only at him, but at myself. I had failed. I had let the game win. The Khan was dead, but at what cost? Oh yeah, and I killed my uncle, and that was pretty sad. So what did we learn today? Well, I wish I could say I learned the way of the samurai, but clearly that was not the case. What I did learn, however, is something I feel much more important. That it doesn't matter the size of the anime titties on your chest, but the size of the anime titties in your heart. Oh, and also that, yes, you can beat Ghost of Tsushima without taking any damage. You just have to be better than me. Like this guy. Anyway, I'm gonna go drown my sorrows with a nice bottle of Everclear. If you like the video, be sure to subscribe, and maybe I won't down the whole bottle. Peace. I don't know why I did the mouth pop thing. See you.